able to take advantage of this land that has great bounty from sea to shining sea, and we are taking it for granted and we are throwing it away. It is time for us to wake up before we lose the greatest treasure that God has given to mankind. And we will not play it anymore. We are not racist. We are not haters. We are American citizens. But there is one thing. There is one thing that is true. We're angry. We're angry because we have been lied to. We're angry because we have been sold out. And we're angry because American politicians are selling out the souls of its taxpayers behind closed doors. And we will not tolerate it any longer. Here we are in the heartland of America. Here we are in Indiana, a state that did not exist when the document was signed. But here we are in the year 2010. And if we could speak to Dr. Franklin down through the annals of time, we could stand with one voice and we could say to him, Dr. Franklin, in the year 2010, we send this message to the founding fathers that we have held the republic and we will hold the republic. We shall not allow it to go away. Why? Because preachers stopped preaching. Preachers had become so comfortable that they were no longer serving the people and they were no longer serving God. Preachers had become comfortable. Here in America today, preachers, you're too comfortable. You're too complacent. While the people who fill your churches and fill your congregations have to go out and deal with a world that is affected by the Caesars of our time, we are quiet. God is watching us. And God sees that in the American pulpit, the pulpit has become filled with preachers who are only concerned about their salaries and the next business meeting. It is time for the revival of the church to begin. One nation back to God here and now.
Isaiah 9 verse 6 says, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders. In church terminology, we have a term calling ourselves the body of Christ. That would mean if we are indeed the body of Christ in this world today, representing his spirit in this world today, the government should be upon our shoulders. We have not carried the government upon our shoulders. We have shirked that. We have been told, shut up, sit down, be silent. You have no business in the political arena. Our founding fathers would have just revolted at that. They couldn't even comprehend preachers being absent from speaking about politics. Politicians want you to think that everything that they do is about money. They want you to think it's about feeding you and caring for you. They want you to think it's about medicine and medical insurance and these kind of things, because that's what they hold over our heads. You don't do right, we'll take the money. You don't do right, we'll feed you. You don't do right, we'll bring the military in. That's why they left England. That's exactly what occurred. However, politics and what we're about is not about really money. It's about character. It's about integrity. It's about honesty. It's about truth. It's about doing what is right in everybody's sight, particularly God's and man's. Men and women of God in the Old Testament. Abraham faced down 3 kings with his own personal militia. Joseph ran all of Egypt as the vice president of his day and saved the world and the nation of Israel and guaranteed the bloodline that would bring forth the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Moses Moses, the lawgiver, stood up and faced down the spirit of Pharaoh and commanded, let God's people go. Deborah, Samson, Elijah, Nehemiah, Esther, Daniel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, David, Saul, Solomon, Paul, Peter, they all stood before kings. They all stood before kings. We call ourselves something where we do not hold ourselves to the thing that will make us that, and that's righteous, and that's a people that live in what we call holiness. Oh, it's not a popular topic today, talk about holiness. That's old-fashioned. Kind of like, the Constitution's old-fashioned. I believe the Bible and the holiness and righteousness are eternal. They're eternal. They're not old-fashioned, they're eternal. Sit down, you're taking my preaching time. The Constitution was inspired, I believe, by men who said, how can we dare think that we can raise a nation up without God's help? And they prayed, they dismissed and prayed and fasted. I believe God had a divine hand in writing that Constitution. It has to be a group of people like yourself and me that's going to stand up, not by preference and not by wishful hopes and not by daydreams and not by, wishful thinking, but because we got some backbone and we got some conviction, and we'll say we will stand up and we will speak out.
And friends, let me tell you something today. We have to pay attention to our young people because their minds are being brainwashed by a public school system that is directing them to socialism. Well, here we are in the heartland of America. Here we are in Indiana, a state that did not exist when the document was signed. But here we are in the year 2010. And if we could speak to Dr. Franklin down through the annals of time, we could stand with one voice and we could say to him, Dr. Franklin, in the year 2010, we send this message to the founding fathers that we have held the republic and we will hold the republic. We shall not allow it to go away. We know that they would want us to go away. We know they want us to sit down somewhere and be quiet. We know that they want us to play the game. But we send this message to them. We will not play the game, and we will not go away quietly into the night. We are Americans, and we will stand, and we will fight. We are Americans. Our nation is under attack. And the enemies of this country would like to turn that into a racial issue. The enemies of this country would like to turn that into a Mexican issue. But that is a national security issue. And it is time for Americans to stand up and be heard. He touched me. Oh, he touched me. And oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole. Every head is bowed, every eye is closed. And now, unto him who is able, I tell you, to keep us from falling, to the only wise God, our Father, be grace dominion and power, both now